It was December 1st, 1948, 6:30 a.m. The first hints of dawn were just breaking over Somerton Beach, Adelaide, South Australia. The air was cool, the coastline serene, a peaceful canvas for the start of another summer day. It was a quiet, suburban stretch of sand, usually frequented by early morning joggers or a few dedicated fishermen. But on this particular morning, the tranquility was shattered by a grim discovery. Two jockeys, out for their customary morning ride along the beach, stumbled upon a man lying on the sand, casually leaning against the seawall. He appeared to be asleep, head propped up, one leg crossed over the other, as if simply enjoying a peaceful rest. They tried to rouse him, but he didn't stir. Growing concerned, they called the police. What the responding officers found was baffling. The man was clearly deceased, but his appearance was anything but typical for a beachside death. He was immaculately dressed, a pristine suit, a tie, a crisp white shirt, and polished shoes. He looked as though he'd simply fallen asleep fully clothed. His physical state was equally perplexing. He appeared to be in peak physical condition, fit, strong, with no obvious external signs of struggle or violence. Yet he was gone. The true layers of the mystery began to peel back as police examined his possessions, or rather the stark lack thereof. In a detail that would haunt investigators for decades, every single label on his clothing had been meticulously cut off or removed. From his suit jacket to his underwear, every tag, every tailor's mark, every identifying stitch was gone. This wasn't just unusual, it screamed deliberate concealment. His pockets were virtually empty. No wallet, no identification cards, no money, no personal letters, no train ticket, no bus ticket. Nothing that could possibly shed light on who he was. The only items found were a half-smoked cigarette lying near him and a packet of Army Club cigarettes in his pocket. But even these had a strange twist. The Army Club packet contained a different brand, Kensitas, a detail that hinted at a hurried, perhaps desperate switch or a carefully planned deception. The initial police reaction was one of profound bewilderment. This was no simple drowning, no apparent natural death. The deliberate removal of all identifiers, the bizarre cigarette mix, the absence of any struggle, it all pointed to something far more sinister and premeditated. The question hung heavy in the air. Who was this man? And why was he so determined to remain anonymous even in death? The baffling case of the unidentified man on Somerton Beach quickly escalated. An autopsy was performed, hoping to shed light on his mysterious demise. But even the medical examiners were stumped. The cause of death was inconclusive. There were no clear signs of poison in his stomach, though toxicology methods were rudimentary in 1948. No external injuries, no signs of a struggle. His internal organs were congested, suggesting heart failure or some form of poisoning. But without a definitive substance found, the medical report offered no clear answers. Physically, the man had some peculiar traits. His calves were unusually developed, almost like a ballet dancer's or a long-distance runner's. And despite extensive checks, his teeth didn't match any known dental records globally, adding to his global anonymity. Days later, during a more meticulous examination of his clothes, investigators made a discovery that would blow the case wide open, launching it into the realm of true legend. In a tiny, cleverly hidden fob pocket, expertly sewn into the waistline of his trousers, they found a small, tightly rolled piece of paper. On it, printed in an obscure, almost unique font, were two cryptic words, Tamam Shud. Police, baffled, eventually sought help from language experts. Tamam Shud was identified as a Persian phrase, meaning finished or ended. It was specifically the last two words found on the final page of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, an 11th century collection of Persian quatrains, famously translated by Edward Fitzgerald. The poem itself is a meditation on life, death, and fate, a chillingly poetic epitaph for a man whose life had so mysteriously ended. The discovery launched a desperate public appeal. Had anyone seen a copy of the Rubaiyat with its last page torn out? Weeks stretched into months, and then a breakthrough. A local man came forward, recalling that he had found a rare first edition of Fitzgerald's translation in the back seat of his unlocked car. The car had been parked near Somerton Beach on November 30th, the day before the body was found. And chillingly, the last page of his copy was indeed torn out. A perfect match for the scrap found in the dead man's secret pocket. But the book held an even greater secret. On its back cover, meticulously scrawled in pencil, was a seemingly meaningless 5-line code. It looked like random letters, some crossed out, adding to its frustrating complexity. WR baby MLAAT impanat PMLBOAAQC. The 5th line was crossed out, making it even harder to decipher. This discovery electrified the case. This was no ordinary death. This was a coded message, a secret communication, suggesting a world of espionage and clandestine operations. And alongside the code, also scrawled on the back cover, was a local phone number. This became the most promising, tangible lead yet in the hunt for the Somerton man's identity. The phone number found scrawled on the back of the Rubaiyat led investigators directly to Jessica Thompson, a 42-year-old nurse living in Glenelg, just a short distance from Somerton Beach. When police arrived at her doorstep, she appeared visibly shaken by their presence and the questions about the deceased man. She vehemently claimed not to know him, denying any connection to the Rubaiyat or the phone number. However, when investigators presented her with a plaster bust of the Somerton man's head, her composure shattered. She was said to have reacted with extreme distress, almost fainting, and refused to look directly at the bust, turning away with palpable discomfort. This powerful, almost theatrical reaction immediately raised a red flag. Despite her claims, her body language screamed recognition, fear, or both. Under further questioning, Thompson admitted that she had owned a copy of the Rubaiyat, but insisted she had given it to a man named Alfred Boxall, an acquaintance a few years prior. Investigators quickly tracked down Boxall, only to find him alive and well, and his copy of the Rubaiyat was perfectly intact, with its last page still firmly in place. Thompson's alibi, her only real explanation for the book, was a clear lie. Jessica Thompson became the central, most frustrating figure in the investigation. She consistently denied knowing the man, despite her suspicious reactions and the fabricated story about the book. But as decades passed, more details about Thompson's own life would emerge, painting a picture of a woman deeply enmeshed in secrets. Her own daughter, Kate, would later reveal that her mother had been involved in intelligence work during World War II and spoke fluent Russian. She was an elusive, guarded figure throughout her life, a detail that retroactively cast her earlier denials in an even more suspicious light. Was she protecting someone or herself? The narrative of the Somerton man grew increasingly complex. A local fisherman claimed to have seen the Somerton man at Outer Harbor, a nearby port, the day before his death. He remembered seeing a foreign ship docked there, hinting at an international connection, a rendezvous. Adding another piece to the puzzle, a brown suitcase was discovered at the Adelaide train station, checked in a day before the man's body was found. Its contents were meticulously catalogued: a dressing gown, slippers, 4 pairs of underpants, pajamas, toiletries, and a screwdriver. Once again, all clothing labels had been removed. Inside the suitcase, police found a unique detail: a thread of orange wax and a tailor's mark for T. Keane. This led them to a tailor in Adelaide who recognized the specific cutting of the items but couldn't identify the man or recall a T. Keane as a specific customer. The suitcase confirmed the man had traveled to Adelaide by train and likely spent his last night in the city before his grim discovery on Somerton Beach. The baffling case of the Somerton man, with its meticulous anonymity, enigmatic code, and the mysterious Jessica Thompson, soon became a prime candidate for the burgeoning espionage theory. The context of the late 1940s was crucial: the immediate aftermath of World War II and the dawn of the Cold War. Australia, as a key intelligence partner for Britain and the US, was a strategic battleground for intelligence agencies. Adelaide, with its secret Woomera missile testing range, was a prime target for foreign espionage. This historical backdrop made the spy theory not just plausible, but highly probable. Top cryptographers, including those from the FBI and Scotland Yard, were brought in to crack the 5-line code found on the Rubaiyat. Despite their efforts, the code remains stubbornly unsolved to this day. This suggested an incredibly complex cipher, perhaps a one-time pad or a personal code that only the man and his intended recipient could understand. Was it a message outlining a mission, a list of agents, a set of deadly instructions? The very insolvability of the code added to the chilling mystique. Jessica Thompson's background further fueled the spy theory. The revelation that she had a background in military intelligence, spoke fluent Russian, and was known for her secretive nature strongly tied her to the shadowy world of Cold War espionage. Was she a handler, a fellow agent, or perhaps even a lover? Was she the intended recipient of the Rubaiyat and its hidden code? Her strong reaction to the man's bust, her lies about the book, and her evasiveness painted a picture of someone deeply involved in this clandestine world. If she spoke Russian, and if the Cold War was heating up, was the Somerton man a Soviet agent? Or an agent on the run from the Soviets? The inconclusive autopsy results were also revisited through the lens of espionage. Was he poisoned with a substance that leaves no trace, a common method in covert operations? The rapid onset of symptoms if he died on the beach, and the lack of struggle could certainly suggest this. Perhaps he was given a fast-acting, untraceable poison designed to eliminate him and his secrets simultaneously. For decades, the case languished, an enduring cold case, a testament to an unsolvable riddle. But the dawn of the 21st century brought a new frontier to forensics, DNA and genetic genealogy. In 2009, a plaster cast of the man's head, taken shortly after his death, was exhumed. Scientists painstakingly worked to extract DNA from hairs embedded in the cast. And then, in 2022, after years of relentless work by forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, in collaboration with South Australian police, a monumental breakthrough occurred. DNA analysis from a single hair on the cast was used to construct a comprehensive family tree, a genetic blueprint leading back through generations. The DNA pointed to a name, Carl Webb, a man born in Melbourne, Australia in 1905. This was the first time a name had ever been definitively linked to the body of the Somerton man. Initial investigations into Carl Webb revealed he was an electrical engineer and instrument maker, a professional background that could lend itself to technical intelligence work. Records showed he had a sister and had mysteriously vanished from his family's life around 1947, just before the Somerton incident. The man with no name finally had one. But having a name didn't mean the mystery was over. The identification of Carl Webb as the Somerton man was a monumental achievement, a testament to the perseverance of modern forensics and the dedicated individuals who refused to let the case die. It provided a degree of closure, at least for the who of the mystery. But crucially, it did not answer the most profound questions. Why did he die? Why was he found without any identification? And why was he carrying that cryptic code? The man finally had a name, but his story remained stubbornly untold. Why were all his clothing labels cut out? Why was he found with the Tamam Shud slip and the seemingly unbreakable code? Why was he so far from his home in Melbourne, Victoria? And why did his family seemingly never report him missing, despite his sudden disappearance from their lives around 1947? Intriguingly, initial research into Carl Webb revealed a fascinating, albeit still unconfirmed, connection to Jessica Thompson. It was discovered that Carl Webb's wife's brother-in-law was a man named George Thompson. Could Jessica Thompson's real name have been Joe Thompson? And was she potentially connected to Carl Webb through this distant marital link? This revelation, while speculative, opened up a new, tantalizing avenue of inquiry, suggesting that the seemingly random encounter between the man and the book may have been anything but. Even with Carl Webb's identity confirmed, the 5-line code on the back of the Rubaiyat remains stubbornly unbroken. This is now the last great enduring mystery of the Somerton man case. Was it a love letter in code, a spy message containing vital intelligence, a personal diary entry, a philosophical musing, or a final, cryptic note from a man facing his grim fate? The lingering questions continue to echo. Was Carl Webb a spy, perhaps a low-level operative, or someone who simply became entangled in something far too dangerous? Was his death a meticulously orchestrated murder, a desperate suicide, or a tragic accident connected to a secret rendezvous gone horribly wrong? What was the true significance of the Rubaiyat and the Tamam Shud phrase to him? Was it a prearranged signal, a suicide note, or a philosophical statement about his grim fate? And perhaps most hauntingly, what was his true relationship with Jessica Thompson, if any? Did she know him, and was she protecting his secrets, even after his death? The story of the Somerton man, now definitively identified as Carl Webb, stands as a powerful testament to the fact that sometimes, even with the most advanced science and decades of relentless investigation, the full human story behind the strange, dark, and mysterious can remain forever out of reach. Tamam Shud, it is finished. The man's life has ended, but the final chapter, the true reason for his silent, mysterious demise on Somerton Beach, is still far from being closed. His enigma continues to whisper through the decades, a haunting echo of Australia's deepest, most enduring Cold War riddle.